You want it? We have it. The hottest mortgage and real estate strategy broadcast in the nation. A Smarter Way Home with your host, Danielle Boote and Victor Bals. 50 years combined experience, ranked in the top 1% in the nation for home loan originations 2020. Promise to expand your knowledge, utilizing creative mortgage financing and home buying strategies. Build a bridge for a better quality of life. Get your brain cells firing for a smarter way home. And welcome back to A Smarter Way Home, the podcast that helps real estate agents and consumers alike with mortgage financing strategies and home buying strategies. We are here to help consumers and agents. My name is Victor Bals, and I have my co-host with me,
Danielle Boote.
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you're at there. And so today is actually chapter 2 of our journey, A Smarter Way Home. We are actually kind of helping people, but we want people to understand who are we. And last week, of course, we went over you, all about you. And this week we are going to do something about me, I guess.
Sounds good.
Okay, so this week is all about me.
All about Victor.
Okay.
So Victor,
why
don't you tell us where it started for you and your family?
Where it started. Well, actually, I am a son. I'm actually the youngest son of 3 children, born in 1963, so I'm a 58-year-old. And when I grew up, I think it was normal. All I wanted to do was be a garbage man. When I grew up, I remember standing in front of the window on Wednesdays was garbage day, and my mom was there. I want to be a garbage man when I grew up because they push buttons and pull levers and they destroy
You get
stuff.
to drive a really cool truck.
Yeah, and it was just cool. You know, as a 3-5-year-old kid, you know, what couldn't you want that was any better? So anyway, grew up in a home, a blue-collar family. Dad was a tool and die maker, but...
You were in Detroit?
Yeah, in Detroit.
Whereabouts in Detroit?
Well, I was actually in Livonia,
okay.
You know, and my dad worked in Detroit. My parents were born in Detroit. You know, they're son and daughter of immigrants that came over from Belgium and that. But so anyway, there was never religion in the home. I've never been to church a day in my life, and I wasn't allowed in sports or nothing like that. My father was always about work. Church don't pay the bills. Sports don't pay the bills. That's a waste of time. You need to work. Learn how to work with your hands. If you work with your hands, you'll never starve. All these businesses, these lawyers and accountants, as soon as the economy crashes, they're all going to be out of jobs. Learn to work with your hands. So at a very early age, God, I remember 8 years old, I was tearing apart engines from lawnmowers and stuff, and I'd have to tear them apart. They ran fine, but I had to tear them apart, learn how they work and tinker, and learn how to put them together. So I just learned how to do that, and so I don't know. So I learned to tinker, but I was an excellent student in grade school, and that was about to change. You know?
So, let's see, your dad was a tool and die maker.
Yeah.
You said he worked 7 days a week on an afternoon shift.
Never seen my dad.
Really?
My dad was always gone. You know, he was always out taking the overtime. So I really didn't have a role model. You know, mom was there, but, you know, mom was just mom, you know, just doing what she does. So I never had a role model. So, you know, as I got out of grade school, I started to run with the wrong people.
Were you close with your sisters?
No, not at all.
Not as close.
You know, I'm a lot closer today than I was, but my sisters were 3 and 4 years older than I was, so never hung out together. So I just kind of was a loner.
No. So what changed for you in high school? I mean, that was a difficult time in the late 70s.
Yeah. Well, high school, you know, I started running with the wrong crowd. I started, you know, drinking some beers and just doing the wrong things there, and I didn't do good in school in high school. I actually graduated high school with a 1.2 grade point average, and the only reason I graduated with such a high GPA is because I did very well in auto mechanics, auto painting, and all that, so I got straight A's there, and I actually got good grades in algebra and geometry, so I was very good with math and problem
when
solving.
you applied yourself, maybe?
When I applied myself there, yeah, so that was kind of interesting. So, but Dad was never around, so in high school I kind of just took a dive, and I graduated to 1.2. And I said, okay, now what am I going to do with my life? And my dad said, well, you better get a job or a trade, or you better go to school, else you're going to starve, you know. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, you were never around for school. You know, I learned how to work with my hands, so I thought, okay, well, I'll go to college. And I went to Schoolcraft Community College down in Livonia there, and I failed my first semester. You know, I failed. I was taking English 51 in college, and you know, because I never passed English or social studies or history or anything in high school. So I dropped out of college, but I was still living at home. So I'd get up in the morning and faking like I was going to college, and I would go to Burger Chef, which was a fast food restaurant back in the day, and I would just grab the newspaper and read the real estate ads, because I wanted to be a real estate tycoon. How do you buy and sell houses, you know? And that didn't pan out. And I remember my parents going, hey, where's your report card from college? You know, and I go, oh, I don't know, Dad, I'll be getting it. But then Mom got a letter in the mail saying I had book fines, and they were going to hold my report card until I got the book fines paid. So my mom had talked to my girlfriend at the time, and she gave her the money to go pay the book fines and grab my report card, and they brought it back and found out I got all E's, and I dropped out of college.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so that was pretty tough. So from there, I went and got a job, and I ended up I got a job as a sweeper in a machine shop. You know, I'm just sweeping up chips from the lathe, and I did that for a couple years. And, you know, I failed out of college, but I was really good with cars and that. And I was in the wrong wrong crowd, man. Fast cars, rock and roll, girls, that's what we were into when we were, you know, teenagers. But then I got a call. My dad actually called me, and he says, hey, we got a tool and die shop. The sweeper broke his leg. It's a union shop. Why don't you see if you can get that job? So I went and applied, and I got a job as a sweeper at a union shop. And this was, you know, I call it the 89-day shop, because back then, if you made it 90 days, you were in the union. And then I remember on day 89, the owner comes out. I go, oh, this is it. I'm getting canned here. And he goes, hey, Vic, how would you, you did a pretty good job. How would you like an apprenticeship as a tool and die maker? I go, well, tool and die, what do they do? They go, well, they push buttons and pull levers and they make stuff. And I go, well, hey, that's right up my alley, because it's kind of like a garbage man, but now I'm going to actually be effective. So I ended up taking a tool and die apprenticeship, and I went there 4 years, and they actually sent me to school, and I did pretty well. I think I graduated with like a B, you know, and to me that was rock stardom there. So. And then I graduated, became a journeyman. Then I went to one of the big three there at that point. And that's when my life started to really go down. I actually got into drugs and all that stuff, and had a downward spiral, and I ended up in drug rehab a couple times. And so my life was just spiraling out of control at that point.
That's facing adversity in a big way.
Yeah. You know, I guess it was just kind of overwhelming, you know, and because I didn't want to tell my parents, you know, that, you know, I was in rehab and all that. You know, I was just running with the wrong crowds, and I just wanted to get out of that environment, you know. And at that time, I was married, and because of all this downward stuff, I ended up losing my wife. She left me, and then the guy across the street, he was dealing drugs, and that he would come over to my house every day, and I just said, man, I got to change my life. I got to change my life. So I ended up selling the house. You know, I was late on house payments because I was broke. I was just very unresponsible, and I go, I just got to get out of this environment. So I sold the house, and I think I walked out with $4,500. And then what I did is I moved into my sister's house out in Saline, and I moved into the basement. We called it the hole. You know, Vic's going down the hole, and I lived in the basement. And I took the money, all I had, and I went out and I bought a PA system, because I was going to start a band, because I'm going to change my ways. And, you know, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a band. So I lived at my sister's. I bought a PA system, and I was just in this downward spiral. And then, a few months into that, you know, my father actually gave me a call, because he's seen what I was going through there, and he was there financially to help, but he was never there supportively. You know, Dad was just never around. And he goes, hey, the big three is hiring engineers. Why don't you go ahead and apply? I go, engineer, Dad? You know, I don't know. And I go, okay, yeah, I'll apply, because I wanted to somehow maybe please my dad. So I didn't know how to run a computer at this time. You know, I'm 29 years old. This was in 1993, I think it was, or something like that. And so I had my 15-year-old nephew get out his computer because I didn't know how to run a computer. We did a resume for me. So I took it down to the auto company. They called me in for an interview, and they broke out some blueprints of some tool and dies and all that. And they say, what problem do you see here? What problem do you see here? I go, well, I see this isn't going to work because of that, and this ain't going to work because of that, but I see a resolution here. And they go, you know, somehow I got the job. And they go, can you start Monday? I said, yeah, okay. So, you know, I came in there on Monday, and they said, hey, we need you to go downtown there. We need you to get your passport. And I said, well, what for? They go, well, you're going to be our Japan liaison. You're going to Japan. And I said, oh, okay. So I remember coming back with the passport the next couple of days. I said, hey, boss, okay, I got my passport. I got my ticket to Japan. By the way, how much baggage should I pack? He goes, enough for about 3 years. You know? And I thought, oh, wow, so I'm moving out of there. So in one respect, I looked, I said, man, this is going to get me out of this environment, and maybe this is what I need. So I ended up going over to Japan for 3 years.
That's kind of crazy. Just pack up and fly halfway across the world.
But I had nothing to lose, man. Oh. All I had was a PA system in my sister's basement. I was absolutely broke, you know. So, and I just wanted to make a change, and you know, it was like a pinball machine. You just bounce from one bumper to the next, not knowing where you're going. So at that point, I had really no idea where I was going to end up being.
So tell us about the trip to Japan. Not only a very long flight to a strange land where you don't speak the language.
I don't speak, I don't read, I don't write, and now I'm a program manager for a multi-million-dollar project, and I'm there acting as a liaison. I've never run a computer in my life, and I just get thrown into this land as a program manager. So our first trip over there, I had to go with my boss, his boss's boss, and all the bigwigs to go over and set up this program that I'm going to be there for 3 years, and I'm going to be managing, you know. And it was just a little overwhelming for me. And because I'm married to a Japanese gal, but yet 24 years, and I have yet to eat any Japanese food. I mean, I'm 58. I've never tried peanut butter, strawberries, vegetables. So I had a hard time eating over there. So it was a bit overwhelming. But I remember the first week I got there, you know, and you start, and I'm thinking, boy, I'm going to make some changes here. But and the most humiliating thing is when I was actually I'm 30 years old, and I went out and I actually pooped my pants, you know, literally pooped my pants there. And what had happened is because we're all over there in these major companies, they want to take you out and wine you and dine you and make sure you're having a good time. And of course, on the weekends, there's nothing to do because all the plants are closed. They said, hey, you guys want to drive up to the mountain for some sightseeing? And I said, yeah. So it was me and my translator and about 6 other engineers in this minivan, and we're driving up this mountain. And anyway, I have to go to the bathroom because we went out drinking the night before, and it was just not hitting me so well. And in Japan, their toilets or their bathrooms are unlike ours. They don't have a stand-up toilet. They actually have a hole in the floor, and they're beautiful porcelain bowls with beautiful tile and all that. They're just beautiful. But I've never used one, and I refuse to use one because, you know, it's just not the way I roll. I'm American. So anyway, we're driving up the mountain, and my eyes are starting to water, you know, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, I got to go to the bathroom. So I said, Haraguchi-san, you know, I got to go to the bathroom. And he says, Bals-san, there's no Western-style toilets. They're only Japanese-style. And I said, well, no, let's go up to the next rest stop, because they had these rest stops all the way up the mountain there, you know. And so we get to about rest stop 3. I said, Haraguchi-san, I have to go to the bathroom. He goes, Bals-san, there is no Western-style toilets. You got to use a Japanese one. I go, well, let me out, man. So anyway, I run into the bathroom there, and there are all the stalls there, and I fling the door open, and I'm looking for a Western-style toilet, and there's nothing there, man. And so I go down to the next one, and I bang the door open. I go, oh, there's nothing there, man. There's no Western-style. It's just this hole in the floor. So I said, look, I got to do this, man. So I go in, you know, and I don't know what I'm doing. I go, so I squat down, I pull my pants down, and I just let it go, you know, because I had to. You know, that's what you do, right? And all of a sudden, I look down and there's nothing in the bowl. And I look down and it's just all in my underwear. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm 30 years old. I'm in a country that I can't speak, I can't eat, I can't write. I'm a program manager. I got 7 engineers in here, in the van waiting for me, and I just pooped my pants. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is horrible. And then I'm thinking, I got to look for the toilet paper, and I'm looking, I go, well, I can't find the toilet paper, because on an American-style toilet, you don't face the wall, right? Because your toilet's against the wall, you turn around, the wall's behind you. Well, in Japan, you face the wall when you go into these Japanese-style things. So I'm sitting there, my pants are down to my ankles, I can't move, and now I find out that the toilet paper is behind my shoulder, and I can't reach, and I'm going, oh my God, what do I do? So I go, okay, when in Rome, do as the Romans do here, So I pull my underwear off, huff my leg over, and I take my underwear off, and I start cleaning myself up, and I take my underwear, I roll them in a ball, and I toss them over the corner into a garbage can, and I clean myself up, and I go, okay, that's over. So I get in the van, and my translator says, hey, Bals, everything okay? I go, yeah, no problem. So we continue to drive up the mountain, and we finished the day up there, But there's a lot more to the story that goes on. But the moral of the story is a couple days later, I am going from, I come back from the plant, and I get to my hotel, and the little girl up there, the receptionist says, Mr. Bals, we have a package for you, And I go up there, I thought it was my mom was sending me a care package because she would send me stuff over, and I didn't. And I open it up right there at the counter, and it's my underwear that I had thrown out in the at the bathroom there. And I'm going, well, how the heck did they do that? And I look, and it's because I always had my dry cleaning done, so they had a laundry tag that had my name and the name of the laundry place, and they had all that. And now it all dawned on me, because when you go to Japan, in all the bathrooms, they have these women or these men sitting in the corner, always giving you a hot towel and all that. So this lady must have seen me, said, oh, there's another poor American that pooped his pants, threw his underwear out. So she grabbed the underwear out of the thing, sent it in a dry cleaner. So that was a kind of humility, and that's what kind of changed me to say, you know what, maybe I gotta start changing my ways here, and start learning a little bit in Japan.
Yeah, that would be a huge culture shock.
Yeah, but to my day, my boss never found out. Really, nobody ever knew that story. But what had happened after that, I said, look, this is humiliating. I can't do nothing. So I got to learn to do something. So I decided, you know what? I was in my hotel that night. And I'm looking out the window, and I see Boote English School. There was an English school down below there, and I thought, well, God, these people must speak English. It's an English school. So I went down there the next day, and I thought, well, I'm going to try to find someone that speaks English. And I walk in, and there's some English-speaking teachers there. And they came from Brazil, Australia, Germany, and they all teach English as a second language. And we hit it off pretty good. I ended up with a couple buddies there, and they all had Japanese girlfriends. And so I started hanging out with these guys, and I said, you know what, this is pretty good. And they played music, and I thought, well, this is kind of cool. So we started getting together and playing music, and I started writing songs. So that's when I started to dive into changing my world. I started writing about my experiences and all that stuff, and we actually formed a band, and I was the singer in a band, and we started doing all these gigs in Japan. So I ended up getting an apartment over there, got a car, and started having a life, So, and it was funny. So going forward a couple years now, I'm there, and it's about 3 weeks before I'm stationed to come home, and the project was over. And during those 3 years, many people, the Japanese people at the companies and the restaurants, I always frequented the restaurants, and they knew me pretty well because I was so picky at eating. And there was a girl there, Maya, my current wife right now, that I always went to the restaurant, and she always knew what I wanted and all that stuff, And anyway, so my translator, I said, look, I want to take all these people out to lunch, So he would call up all these businesses, and he would say, hey, Mr. Bales would like to take you out to lunch just for your appreciation, you know. And so I'd take these people out to lunch, and I said, hey, can you call that girl Maya, call her work and invite her out for lunch? And he calls her up, and she says, no way, I don't go to lunch with that guy. I don't even know this guy. And she hangs up the phone on my translator. You know, I thought, oh, okay, it is what it is, right? So 2 days later, I'm walking across from one plant to another plant, and all of a sudden I hear beep, beep, and a little white car there, and this little girl gets out. It's Maya, my current wife, and she breaks out her dictionary, and she says, hey, I'll go to lunch with you, you know, and come to find out, she just wanted to make sure I really did work there at this place, you know, that this just wasn't a scam. So we ended up going to lunch, and then we ended up that night going to dinner, and then we ended up going to breakfast the next day, and we hit it off. And then I come to find out she was trained in piano since the age of 3. So we couldn't talk to each other except as a dictionary, but we had a language of music that we kind of just hit it off. So, and that was 3 weeks before me leaving. So I actually kind of started falling in love with this girl, and I had to go home. So I went home and came back to the automotive company, and I kept writing her letters for about 10 months, you know, and we kept in contact. And I called her, and my phone bill would be like $700 a month back in, 1994, I think this was. So 10 months later, I had vacation, and I went over to Japan to visit her for 3 weeks. I used all my vacation time, brought my guitar, and she had an apartment over there, and we just hit it off musically, stayed there 3 weeks. We wrote some songs, and we did some small videos of songs, and we kind of hit it off. And I said, I tell you what, why don't you come back with me to America, you know? Why don't you come for the summer? So she took the summer off, and she came that summer and stayed there and stayed with me in that, and got to meet Scott and Ginny, my friends who we recorded music with and all that stuff. And we went out camping in Pinckney, you know?
Jeez.
You know, we went camping. I'm not a camper at all. And I remember we're sitting there on the swing, and I thought, this girl's right for me. I think I'm gonna, so I proposed to my wife right there in the swing.
In the Pinckney rec area.
In the Pinckney rec area, you know, and we're looking at the stars and all that. And I went and gave her, I proposed to her and gave her a ring, and, you know, and she's sitting there on the swing. She goes, Vic, she goes, you know, I'll marry you, but I can't take this ring. And I said, well, why is that? She goes, this is your ex-fiance's ring. I can't wear it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I just got popped. You know, and I go, well, how the hell did you find the ring? And she goes, well, you know, well, I'm at work. She had nothing to do living in my apartment. So all she did was clean all day. You know, the place was clean as crazy. She couldn't drive. And I was engaged before, and I broke up, and I took the ring back, and I hid it up in the cupboard in the kitchen, you know, and she found it, you know, but she goes, but she said yes, and she was actually married before, and she still had that wedding ring. So eventually we would end up melting down her ring, melting down my ring, and we made one ring for her. You know, so it was funny. So her stint was up. She had to go back to Japan because her visa was only for 90 days. And then I said, we're getting engaged. Let's get all your stuff. So she ended up quitting her job, cleaning out all her money. She started moving all her boxes and shipping it over to America. And I'm in my apartment, and I'm receiving all these boxes, and I'm stacking them up. It's time for her to come to America. So she comes in America, and I go down to Detroit Airport there, and her plane's coming in, and it's an hour, it's 2 hours, it's 4 hours, it's 5 hours. She never comes out of the plane. Finally, immigration comes out, and they say, hey, do you know Yasio Maeda? I go, yeah, that's, yeah, I know her. I'm here to pick her up. They go, I'm sorry, we just had to ship her back to Japan. And I'm thinking, well, why? And they go, well, we came here, and we looked at her passport. She was just here for 3 months, okay? And no Japanese gets that much vacation time. They work too hard, you know? And so they asked Maya, they go, well, who are you here to see? And they gave them my mom's name and number because we didn't have cell phones at the time. So they called my mom. And my mom says, oh, yeah, they're going to get married. We love her. And, well, that's the wrong answer because you can come to this country fall in love and get married, that's legal, but you can't come to this country with the intent of getting married. That's illegal because I didn't have a K-1 visa. So she's on the next plane back to Japan. She's given up her apartment. All her belongings are already at my house. She's already moved money over. And so she goes home, and I had to call on the phone, call a translator to call her parents to somehow let them know that she's coming back to Japan. They won't let her in the country. And I don't know what the heck's going on. I don't even know what plane, but please go find your daughter at the airport.
Oh my
and,
gosh.
and take her home. So she ended up moving into her mom's house with all her belongings are sitting here in my apartment. All she had was a carry-on bag, you know. She has no job, no nothing. So I spent the next 10 months and $30,000 talking to attorneys, having my parents sponsor her, getting all the immigration correct to get her over here. And so I said, hey, okay, it's all clean. Come on over. She says, no, I'm not coming over, man. I'm too scared. You come and get me, right? So I flew over to Japan, and this is actually about a month before we're cleared, and it was actually Christmas time, and I remember this. So I got on the plane with two big suitcases, and she meets me at the airport, and we had to go to Tokyo Station, and we're sitting in Tokyo Station, and I got these two huge suitcases there, and we're waiting for the next train. And so I open them up, and I had all these Christmas presents for her. It was all clothes, you know, because she didn't have no clothes or nothing. And I remember we're just sitting there at the train station. There's nobody around. And I open them up and I start giving her this gift. Here's a shirt. Here's a dress. Here's some shoes. Here's this. And all these people start gathering around seeing me and Maya are having this Christmas here. It was the best Christmas I ever had in my life. Just sitting there with her, you know. And so anyway, I brought her all these clothes, and I just fell in love with her.
You knew you had to get her home.
I had to get her home, you know, somehow. And it was the most heartfelt thing I've ever felt in my life, you know. And so she had a bunch of new clothes. And so we went to her parents, and I sat down with them, and I said, I promise I'm going to take care of your daughter, you know. And we flew home, and we got her home, and we had 30 days to get married. And so we organized a wedding with Ginny and Scott. She helped her out because I don't know nothing about planning a wedding. Maya doesn't know nothing about planning a wedding in America. So we ended up getting married at a strip mall in Pinckney, right on the corner with some little wedding chapel. So
yes, I know. I remember that there.
So we got
on Chilson and 36.
Yeah, so we got married on Friday. On Saturday, she's pregnant, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm broke. She's pregnant, and so I got to get a roof over her head. So Monday morning, I opened the phone book, and I looked, and I said, rural development, 0 down home loans. And I said, you know, God, that's for me, man. I got to get a house here, you know. So I call up the loan officer, go in, and somehow he does something, and he gets me approved. And anyway, we ended up building a house, and 4 months later, me and Maya moved into a brand new house on the rural development, 0 down loan, and I don't know how we did it, but at the closing table, the mortgage guy says, man, you really understand these numbers. He goes, you ever need a job, you come and see me. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I got a good job where I'm at, right? So we move in there, and so we had our daughter, and actually right before we had our daughter, we released a CD, a compilation. We had 35 songs recorded, and we sold 3 to record companies, and we got some royalties off theirs for 4 years, and they'd sell them to record companies, and they'd have new singers, but we kind of did it. But the day my daughter Sakura was born, I hung up my guitars, and gave all that up. So I'm working at the plants. I'm waiting for the next journey somewhere in the world, Australia or China, where I was going to go to there. And Maya wanted to be home to do stuff. So we had our first kid, and Maya's pregnant with our second kid. And she goes, can't you do anything else? I'm morning sick. I still don't speak English that good. I don't have any friends. And I go, well, we'll try, but I got to work. I got to take care of the family. I got to pay the bills, you know. And at this time here, I'm working 7 days at the plant as a general foreman there. And I remember this. It was January 1st. I think it was 2001 or 2000. 2, and it snowed like 13 or 14 inches that day, and I had to go to work, and it took me about an hour to get to work. And I get there and no one's there. And I'm driving around in the golf cart because I'm the manager and I got to make sure that the whole plant's going to be up and running and all that stuff. And then they announced, one of the guys come out and announced, hey, they're closing the plant today. No, there's no work, right? And I just drove an hour and something in 11 inches of snow. And so I'm sitting there in that golf cart just going, oh my God, I've turned into my father. I'm working 7 days, 14 hours, never home. I'm never with my kids. And I got, God, I'm turning exactly into him. This is not who I want to be. So the next day, I called up that loan officer for a couple years ago, and I said, hey, you still hiring? He says, yeah, come on aboard. So I actually quit the automotive, man. I gave up a salary, benefits, a pension, and I walked into 100% commission with one kid here, another new kid that's just about to be born, and and we were broke.
Yeah, that would have been 2000, right?
Yeah,
because he born in 2000.
Yeah,
he's the same age as Laura.
So it was in 2000. So I went into a 100% commission job, and so that's how I got into the mortgage industry. And somehow I was able to thrive in the mortgage industry because it's all about problem resolution, solving stuff, and I use my history or my past of going through bad times and making really bad decisions, and I was able to. So I start to help people.
Well, the interesting story. Some of that I knew and I had heard from you before, but some of it I had not heard.
Oh,
and
really?
at this point, Maya still doesn't. Back then didn't know a lot of English. I mean, I can't even imagine that struggle. How do you just pack up and move halfway across the world because you fell in love with this guy from Detroit?
Well, here's the thing, because I was never brought up. My father was never financially savvy. And remember, people are a product of their intelligence, and so you only learn what they learn, right?
Yeah.
And when we first got married, we have arguments like everybody, and a lot of our arguments revolved around money. And when I had brought her here, and had the kids, I had $12,000 in credit card debt. And back in 1994, 95, that's a hell of a lot of money, And so we fought about money. And, and now I moved into the mortgage industry on 100% commission. She goes, this is very scary. It's not a guaranteed check. I said, you know what? I'm sick of fighting about money. This is what we're going to do. Maya, you're going to take care of the money. I'll go make the money, right? And till this day, 24 years later, I get an allowance every day. So Maya started to handle the money. She goes, I don't care what you make, it's what you spend. And that resonates today. It's not what you make, it's what you spend. So with Maya's principles and my work ethic, my knowledge, we were able to create a compromise. Take them, she takes care of the money. I go make the money. I'm very good at business, very good at solving people's problems. She's very good at managing money. So now 20 years later, we work hand in hand. She still takes care of the money. I take care of all of the investments, the life insurances, the living trust. Now I tend to be an expert on living trust because I got one. My parents had one. My sister has one. She has a special needs kid that has a trust. Mom died last year. I'm the executor on their trust. My father is now don't even know who I am because he's got dementia, so I'm the executor and all the medical help on his trust. So not by want, but by, need or default, I have become almost an expert on living trust, life insurance, business finance, stocks, and taking care of families. So it works out real well. But my wife is just the rock, man. She knows how to take care of money.
She is, and you've got 3 great kids.
Yeah, and and the kids, they're not great because of me. They're great because of Maya. I was only the guy behind the scenes allowing all this to financially happen. But my father has never been to a soccer game. He's never been to a school event. He never went to my graduation. He never went to anything. But I've been to every kid's soccer game, everything. Not that I wanted to. I hated sports because I was born to hate sports. They're no good, but I've come to respect them over 20 years. And now my son Shingo just got in the senior year in high school. So out of the 6,000 games I think we've been to, we're down to the last 16 games of Shingo's life, unless he takes it over in college. So I've become a fan I'm not a screaming fan in the audience or in the bleachers there. My wife is, and I see her cheerleading, and I look at all the other parents just cheerleading, and it's the best thing since sliced bread. And I've just never learned how to cheerlead, I guess, like that. But I'm cheerleading in my heart, probably more than anybody. It's kind of cool. So I've come to respect sports. My kids all get great grades. I couldn't have done it without my wife. I'm very good at the business end. She's very good at the family end. And she's my toe line that brought me in to say, hey, let's put all these morals and ethics and finance, and let's put them all together. So I guess we're a package deal now. So it works.
You are.
Works pretty
She's
good.
a great lady. Well, it's a great story because certainly adversity in life, it either crushes you or it forms you. And I think that, your story certainly shows how it's formed you. And to take a difficult situation. And I think it's interesting, being parents. Now, did your parents immigrate from Europe, or was it your grandparents?
It was my grandparents, yeah. Yeah, they came over in 1929 because, Europe was broke. They came over here, hey, it's America, right? And all of a sudden they stowed away on a boat, and...
but they come not speaking the language. Now, here's the interesting thing, because we have some similarities. Yeah. I have family that came from Belgium on my grandmother's side, on the maternal side. And I know the stories that I heard about my great-grandparents. They couldn't speak any English. They got here. They probably came with children because the economy was so poor in Europe at the time, and they literally had nothing. Yeah. My great-grandparents didn't have a bathroom in their house until the 1950s. They lived in some little house that literally had an outhouse in Chicago. So you look at that and go, okay, when you look at how far your parents came with probably very little to no education, why that's why everybody wound up in Detroit, because of the factories.
Yeah, because
if you could work with your hands, you could get a job.
Yeah, and it was funny because remember, our parents are a product of their environment,
Correct.
Which were their parents, which came over here with absolutely nothing.
Right.
So they are always pay cash, do this, be very frugal because they're afraid of losing everything, which they had nothing to begin with.
Right.
And it's just funny. And as I see the generations going by, it's lightening up a little bit, but. Today, I see customers that still have that, I call it the father syndrome, where they have these tendencies or they're taught these certain ways, and it's really not like that, when you talk about finances and that. But
well, and it's good to be conservative with finances, right?
Absolutely.
We don't ever want to tell anybody to spend more than they earn or to live beyond the comfortable means. But yeah, you have to walk away from how you were programmed.
And how you're programmed.
Isn't that, you look at Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was part of his story because he was raised in a very poor family, and he learned from his best friend's father, who was more of a father role to him. And aren't we in a great time where we can look at it and say men can be involved in their families' lives? And when you told me several years ago that you never missed a doctor's appointment for your kids and you never missed a soccer game, I can't even say that my husband did that. We learned the hard way because Jim worked 2 jobs for 18 years, 7 days a week. And finally we went, no, this isn't going to work. And thankfully Jim's been able to be more involved. Yeah. But, as the kids got a little bit older, but, you struggle, right? You go, oh my God, how am I going to make that house payment? Or
and it was funny, by leaving the big 3 there, I thought, my God, this is absolutely crazy, So in some respect, my father, from his view, did the best he could. He just never understood that was the father. It wasn't the father I wanted. Right. So I'm almost the polar opposite because I am going to give my kids, I want to have them have a better life. I just don't know if my kids are going to look at me and say, God, Dad is like Papa, has those same ways, because I am trying to be supportive. The only thing I want in life is on that gravestone is that my kids say, you know what? Dad was pretty cool. He did the best he could. We understand, but he always provided, supported us in everything.
Well, that's all we can hope as parents, right? Because I had a conversation with my 26-year-old daughter a couple months ago. She is married and has 2 small children and had her second baby earlier this year. And she's a nurse and she does work full time. And she was struggling on her maternity leave to go back to work and make a decision, how many hours, how many days a week. And I said to her, Allison, I understand why you're struggling. I said, I had 4 kids and I've always worked. And she looked at me and said, you don't understand. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, you didn't work when we were little. And I said, what do you mean, Allison? I always have worked. I said, I had 6 months before she was born that I was laid off for a short period of time. But I said, I've always worked. What do you mean? I mean, I might have been lucky enough to work from home. Like, I worked from home even 20 plus years ago, before it was fashionable, before the technology allowed it. And I made a lot of sacrifices to be present for my kids. But her recollection of elementary school, maybe kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade, she remembers me picking her up from school every day, which I did. Yeah. And I said, well, Allison, I had a full-time job. I said, I worked when you were in school. I took care of the younger kids. I did have a part-time sitter, and I picked you up, brought you home, fed you dinner, helped you with your homework, gave you a bath, put you to bed, and then I went back to work until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I did that for years. She had no recollection. Her view of her childhood was that Mom was always there, and I didn't miss usually school events and things of that nature. So that resonated to me, right, as an adult with adult children now, going, they don't view their childhood the way we remember it, right? Which is good, right? Because they've got some blinders on, and they don't necessarily remember the struggles that we had or the difficult times. And
I just hope my kids, I hope they remember me in a good way, and till this day I still go up, I go to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, or I'm up by 4 o'clock in the morning, and I just want to show some sign of excellence. Dad gets up no matter what.
Yeah. But I think it's important to teach your kids a good work ethic, which they certainly have, because I've known them now for a few years.
Yeah. And then the funny thing is Kazi's coming into the business maybe as a mortgage loan professional like your daughter, and my daughter seems to be gravitating towards real estate.
Yeah, which is pretty exciting. But again, that is a testament to your work ethic and what you showed them. But it also gave them not only did it give them a better life, but it gave them a better quality of life as a family. And honestly, and you and I have talked about this personally. I mean, it's kind of crazy to go into a 100% commission position, right? Because it's not always good. Right. Real estate is very cyclical. There's ups and there's downs, and certainly we're at a different point in our career than we were 20 years ago. But you and I started originating at the same time, which is when the big .com mortgage companies came out, right? So it isn't always an easy.
Oh, it's not a pretty scene, but no. And I tell my kids, you can take the safety of a salary, or you can soar with sales. Mm-hmm. You get in sales exactly what you put into it, but don't be self-serving. Right. You have to teach. You have to educate. And I've been blessed, to be with you. And you somehow, you and I came out of the same spank die, I guess you call that, because we're kind of molded in the same of how we take care of our customers, and we look at the problems. You had a lot of tough times. I had a lot of tough times, but it connects with people when you let them know you're human. Right. I'm not just some guy behind a chair with a tie approving a loan. No, man. Right. I'm on your side of the table, and we're going to fight the bureaucracy, man. We're going to do this together.
And educate people how to do it well so that they succeed. That's the huge, huge difference.
Absolutely. So I love the business. So that's how I became a loan officer. And now I look back, I should have done this 20 years earlier, but then again, I wouldn't be as successful or as knowledgeable, because I needed those hard times, hitting them rock bottoms, getting those losses, feeling that pain to mold me into a character so I can see other people don't make the same mistakes.
Right, but could you imagine had you not taken the risk to go to Japan?
Yeah,
when you think about, that's where you met Maya. Yeah. That's where you kind of got your head on straight.
Well, as much as I don't know my father, or didn't get along, or didn't be so close, the defining moment in my life is when my father called me about coming over to engineering at the big three.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for those chain of events, I would have never got my passport, never went to Japan, never pooped my pants, never started a band, never met Maya.
Yeah.
None of that stuff would ever happen. Oh, and then what had happened when I got, here's the thing, when I come back from Japan, I was getting ready for another thing, another stint overseas, and they put me in the plan. I got called in the office by my boss, and he goes, "Hey, Vic, I'm sorry, we're going to have to let you go." And I go, "Well, why is that?" They go, "Well, we found out you lied on your resume." And I said, "Well, I don't think I lied at all." And they pull out my resume there, and they said, "Right here, your goal was to receive your master's degree in engineering. And we found out you don't even have a bachelor's degree. You graduated high school with a 1.2. And I said, "Well, I didn't lie. My goal was still to get a master's degree. My goal today is still to get a master's degree in engineering. So I didn't lie. And he looked and he goes, "Well, he goes, I can't call you a liar because you didn't state you had any degree.
Yeah.
Instead, your goal was there." And anyway, that year I got a bigger raise than all the other engineers there. He goes, "Vic, you know what? I like you because you're from the floor, not from the store." Meaning the school.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I don't know why I went off on that, but
Yeah, but no, that's an important distinction, and that kind of sheds a little light on the way things were in the automotive world.
yeah. Just in life,
Mm-hmm.
And my dad always said, don't let school get in the way of your education. Well, I didn't, that's for sure.
Right, which is important, but you learned a lot along the way. But that's a great story.
So that's how, I'm here. And hey, I still got another good 15 years, and I want to give back through these podcasts, through you building the business, And should we talk about you and I bought the building together, and because we are going to be the last people standing in this county, and we aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, well, I guess we can discuss that. So I guess we didn't talk about this last week, but you and I have been friendly competitors for
15 years,
20
20 years. Yeah.
Yep, and. I had a change of employment almost 3 years ago, and you were the first person that called me when I made a post on social media that I had left the previous company that I had been at for almost 10 years.
Yep. And my company, unfortunately, ended up getting
3
bought
months
out.
later.
Yeah, 3 months later, gets bought out by a bank. And I said, I do not want to be part of a bank. And I remember going to the bar and having a beer and going, "Oh, my God, I got to call you."
Yeah.
And Michelle Vetter,
Yep.
she was right next to me. She goes, "Call Danielle." I said, "No, I can't do it. She's my competition." Call Danielle. And I called you, and within 10 minutes, you had me on the phone with your boss.
Yep.
And you didn't know me personally, but somehow you took a leap of faith and you brought me into a Harborland.
Yeah. Well, you had said to me, "Why did you switch companies?" And I shared with you my story, and you said, "Well, what about the new company? Are they any good?" And I shared with you that, well, I kind of thought so. We were doing well. Even after only being there a few months, we had technology, we had support, and we had some speed, which wasn't always the case in our past.
And I remember, I go, "Do they have a cool logo? Is it landscape or portrait?" Because I thought I was going to be staying in my building, and I had a landscape, and I looked at the logo. I said, "That's cool enough for me.
Yeah.
I'm in, man."
Yeah.
But little did I know, I would get kicked out of my own building
In a couple days.
days, and you took us into that little space over there.
Yeah.
And if
Which we outgrew very fast.
Yeah, but you remember, I came in because you were going to be my safe harbor, right? Mm-hmm. And I was going to have my own branch of the company.
Yep.
Right? Because we're my competition. We're not going to work together. We just respect each other, and you're going to help me out.
Right. So what did I told you you came to visit the office with Dustin and Maya.
Yeah.
And we had been talking, you talked to Danny. I had been talking to Jim going, well, either this could be the best thing that we ever do as our career, or it's going to be the absolute worst, because everybody knew us. And we were very different. We're very different people.
And I'm pretty good at making bad decisions.
Yeah, and I've made a few myself over the years. But I said, look, if we're gonna do this, we have to check our egos at the door, and we have to move forward in a manner that says we're stronger together as a group than we are individually. Yeah. So you came with your team, and then we hired a few other people. Right. Also from the prior place. And I think, what did we onboard? 12 people in the inset of 60 days or something ridiculous
all
like that.
All in a little 2,000 square foot office.
No, it was like 1,700 square feet office.
But remember, we had bunk cubes.
Yeah. We had cubes upon cubes. Yeah, literally, I had to call my furniture guy and say, I need cubicles and workstations stat. Plug in the phones, get the internet going.
My
And
God.
luckily, within, September of that year, we moved to our current location, the Pro A building at Grand River and Euler. And you stood in the parking lot and joked and said, man, Danielle, we should buy this building someday. I'm like, okay, sure, Vic.
Yeah.
We've just gone through kind of hell with our former employers and trying to restart our businesses. And
and then I remember when the landlord came in and you and I were joking with him, hey, if you ever want to sell this building, let us know. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, a month later, he comes back and says, well, we want to sell it.
It was, we've been there almost 2 years. So it was a year later.
Okay.
It was about a year later he called and said, hey, we're on the verge of retiring. The building was owned by two families, 4 brothers that owned the building, and 2 of them were already retired. One of them was out of state, and they just, said, hey.
And I remember when we said, hey, that we got a purchase agreement, that's when you and I had to get serious. I said, God, what are we doing, man? This is kind of crazy. We both had some bad partnerships and bad relationships with mortgage companies. And I remember going home and talking to Maya about it. I go, look, Danielle wants to buy the building. We want to partner up here. What do you think? She goes, I'm all in for it, but what does Danielle think about partnering with you? And so she was, because they love you, they trust you, but they just don't trust me. I'm gonna keep up on because I don't know. But anyway.
Well, and Jim did the same thing. I went home to Jim, and we were actually sitting in the hot tub one night having an adult beverage. And, I'm like, hey, I got this idea. And what about the building? We buy it with Vic and Maya. And he was like, oh, that's a great idea. And that's not Jim's. Normally, Jim gives me a little resistance with a crazy idea. So it took us a few months to get through the financing. But yes, in May of this year.
Actually, that was an easy ride going through the bank. Obviously, we've got our act together.
Just a lot of
paper.
We know the paperwork.
Yeah, we understand.
Just a different process than we're used to.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. So now we don't care what mortgage company closes, what they do, because we're going to be standing in town. We are never going to leave.
No, and that was the thing that you and I had both built offices, had interest in space created and had to walk away from it all because of past employer situations.
And now we're going to build a legacy for our children. Your daughter Laura's coming in. Kazi may be coming into it. Sakura's coming. But like you told me, don't leave an estate, leave a legacy. Let's build. You got to give to get.
Yeah.
So... now I'm very grateful for where we have, and it's just now we have the opportunity. Now we got this podcast, we've got, and now we're building the Assist My Realtor site and our sites. It's going to be a reference site for real estate agents and consumers alike. Now we get to teach people.
Yeah, so we're really looking forward to future episodes. So please bookmark our broadcast here and tune in on a regular basis.
Yeah, give us some likes below.
Yes, and if you have questions or content that you would, ideas for what you'd like us to talk about, we'd be happy to take any suggestions.
Yeah, and actually next week we're going to dive into Chapter 3. Now that you listeners understand who we are at a deeper level, now we're going to go into who you are. We're going to go into the psychology of a borrower and a home buyer. It's going to be a great episode, and that will really get some brain cells firing. But if you got any questions, you can email us at info@assistmyrealtor.com or go to danielleboote.com
or victorbales.com.
We'll see you next week here on A Smarter Way Home. Thank you very much.